Hello, 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 and welcome to Unverified. This is your favorite, your most beloved podcast on the internet. I am your host, Simba, aka Swizzy IV, and today, as usual, I'm joined by three beautiful boys. First off, we've got Israel, aka Rimalati. Hi, Israel. Say hello to the people. Exactly, yeah. And next up we got Reese, aka Gamer Sodom. Now, please, do you have words for us on this one?
Hi, he's on something.
Improvement. And last but not least, we've got a special one. We've got Mr. YouTube himself, Simi, aka Tamago2474. Tamago, say hello to the people.
Hello, Simba. Very happy to be here. We've got a great show tonight.
Great show.
I don't know what was going on with Israel there, but I'm very curious to hear more.
I am concerned and worried. I definitely am. I'm sure he'll be okay. It is a beautiful, beautiful evening in the United Kingdom, and that just means it's not raining today.
It was raining today.
It's not raining at the moment, is my point. Look on the upside here, Reese. We're trying to be positive. Okie dokie. But you know what is not beautiful, guys? You know what's rustling my jimmies?
What's rustling your jimmies, Simba?
Have you seen them new fandangled Google icons? Oh my god, they grind me to a hole.
Yeah, I've seen them. Who can describe what it actually looks like for someone who's listening?
So basically what Google has decided to do is, before they had different colors and different icons. So the Gmail one was basically a little letter, and it had red outlines. Google Docs was a blue piece of paper folded, and it's got white writing. Calendar was a blue flip calendar, and it had the date on it. Google Drive was three colored strips making a triangle type of shape. And for some reason, in general corporate fashion, they decided individuality is lame. So they decided to unify the design and have everything have the Google colors. So now Google Mail is, that little M on a letter? It's that, but now it's all the different Google colors intersecting. And that's basically now the design philosophy for all their stuff. So it looks kind of samey, and in a lot of cases, arguably worse. So, yeah.
Okay, the Gmail one doesn't bother me too much. The calendar one's a bit but the Google Docs one is just awful. Why?
Yeah, whoever did that needs to, be fired.
Genuinely, I looked at it and I was like, wait, what happens? It's oh, it's Docs. How?
The main issue with it is that you wouldn't know what it was if you weren't aware of what it was before. They've gone for this design where it's it kind of looks like one piece of ribbon that's been folded to make these different shapes. And, people will get used to it. But I do often wonder why a lot of companies opt to go for this flatter design.
I understand why they might want to do that, just because using it in different places, animating stuff. I can understand wanting to have a flatter logo. My main problem with this kind of design philosophy is the fact that each app kind of lacks individuality, and it makes it harder to differentiate. And Google's not even the worst ones for it. Adobe recently did a similar thing. With the Adobe suite, prior to their insanity, each application had a different color. And they were reasonably different colors, Audition's green, Premiere is purple, Photoshop is blue, Lightroom is a really light blue. And now they've pretty much for everything just gone purple, just different shades of purple. And now it's hard to differentiate any of them, even Audition, which makes no sense because it was green.
Yeah, it's very confusing. What's the philosophy behind it? Because I understand fundamentally simplifying your logo designs, especially with, having very tiny icons to click on. But the Google icons were fine before. If you're going to change it, make it better. I would be very curious to hear their reasoning for it. Or is it just one of those things where it's we're just trying to always, keep things advancing, keep switching things up?
Maybe they're trying to make it clear that these are Google's mail, calendar, stuff like that. To, directly link it to them, especially with say Google and Adobe, where they have so many apps. Maybe they want it to be all these they're ours. You can tell from the logo that this is ours and it couldn't be anyone else's.
Yeah, and it's you reset. It's probably a brand awareness thing. And honestly, with the Google ones, personally, I don't really despise most of them that much. For instance, Drive is basically the same. That hasn't changed.
See, it isn't though.
But it's basically the same.
Drive. That's the problem. Drive is the worst one. The red triangle. If that red triangle was on the top or the bottom left, I'd be fine. But I have like Google Drive bookmarks so I can get to it like frequently. And that tiny red triangle, at a glance, it just makes it look like there's a notification for Google Drive. And I hate that.
That's interesting.
Okay, I kind of see that.
But barring that one kind of issue, like that one very, very minor thing, it's essentially the same logo. Like I was gonna say, the only one that I think is really stupid is the docs one, because it's just like
Yes.
you can't even tell what the hell that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, the docs one's kind of real dumb. But the Google has seemed to be on a bit of a dumb streak, or well, maybe not a dumb streak. I guess it depends who you are. Creative director at Stadia had some comments on streamers. So basically, recently, streamers have been taking down a lot of their past broadcasts out of fear of being assassinated by UMG and Sony Music Entertainment, because DMC strikes are being thrown around, and they're basically going through what YouTube went through at a certain point. Our boy Alex had some things to say about streamers and their use of content. Simi, do you want to tell the people what Alex Hutchinson had to say?
So it says, streamers worried about getting their content pulled because they use music they didn't pay for should be more worried by the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business. Let's emphasize the word real there.
Yeah.
And paying for the content they use. So that's what he had to say. And, you know, it is very interesting because this is a debate that I remember propped up significantly on YouTube, I want to say around 2012. And it was mainly up to the publishers. They eventually decided, you know what, we profit more when we have content creators making videos and doing streams and talking about our games online. And so what you would find is on the websites of a lot of these publishers like EA and Ubisoft, you'll find a place on their website where they say, feel free to use our games to create content because they see the profit. But to a certain extent, Alex is right that at any moment they could decide, actually, that's our property. You bought a license to play the game, not distribute and profit from it. It's generally accepted that, you know, the gaming industry benefits from content creators.
Developers and publishers, yeah, they realize the power of content creators. Like when this whole thing was happening, I just looked at my Steam library, the games that like I have installed and play somewhat regularly now. And like maybe like 90% of them I would not own or even heard of if it wasn't for content creators. Content creators are almost just free advertising that would just push your game out there so heavily.
Yeah. And then in addition to free advertising, they're also paid advertising. You have companies reaching out to content creators, you know, even me, they reach out and they're like, hey, would you make a video on our game? We'll send you a free code, this, that, and the other. Now, I personally, you know, depending on what kind of content you create, I have opinions on whether creators should do this or not. For example, if you're just a person who plays games and has fun with them, I think it's absolutely fine to, you know, accept a game key and maybe even accept like payment for playing a game on the channel. I would say if you're a person who reviews games, I personally don't think you should even accept really a game key, because that can sort of influence whether it influences in small ways your opinions on the game.
Also another point I should mention is that because they gave you the game for free, you're coming from the perspective of someone who got that game for free. That will change your perspective a lot differently.
That's true.
Especially if you got a game for free compared to where if you're trying to justify someone to buy a game who will have to purchase it. And most games are like, what, £55 now?
Getting expensive, man.
Yeah.
Actually, I agree with that. Yeah, there has been some games, even very recently, that, you know, you play, it's like, that's a good game, but that's not a good £60 game, you know?
For real.
Exactly.
For real.
It can affect it. But yeah, no, you're right. I think Alex is correct here. We do have that one side where it's like, yes, game publishers are getting their free advertising, but, you know, and the other side, content creators are making a living and being able to actually survive. So it's a sweet deal, and it's, you know, I think it's fair enough that I think content creators should be appreciative.
It's almost like an evolution of the review type thing of like, I don't know, going to IGN and reading a review, sure, but now with content creators, with either YouTubers or streamers, you're now seeing them play the game and getting their like live reaction, whether or not they are like directly reviewing the game, like, oh, I give this game a 10 out of 10 and would recommend it to everybody. you're still getting like a live opinion on a game from somebody that isn't necessarily a game reviewer who is like, oh, this, and that. And it's just like more your average person type deal.
Yeah, it's mostly free advertising, but there's certain games in which it could potentially hurt sales for. There's a lot of narrative-driven games where, like, you just watch somebody play through it, you're like, unless there's like a choice system, and you know how that works in video games these days. But you know, unless there is like an actual choice system and different things affect it, you watch through it, and you're like, well, that was fun, and then you don't buy the game. And you know, in that regard, it's I think you're right. Content create like it's a fair deal both ways, but I think there's some content creators and like can get entitled and feel as if they have the right to be able to do that. But it's like, no, it is a privilege, and you're really lucky to do so. You know, movie reviewers have to fucking tiptoe around the fucking forest so they don't get gunned down by Warner Media or something. and they're reviewing a movie. You know, and if movies are like, oh yeah, no, you can review our movies because you know most people will see it, that'd be great. But like that's not how it works. And you can make the same argument for movies too. But yeah, like it is a privilege.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up another point that no one's really been thinking about. If publishers actually did ban gameplay videos or ban YouTubers creating content on their video games, there would be no Rooster Teeth. There would be no Red versus Blue because they literally create their own story within a video game.
Right.
And so like things like that wouldn't have been able to exist. Like people wouldn't have found interesting ways to create stories to tell or you know things like that. Basically.
Yeah. Well, that's the point I was trying to make. Where it's like content creators are very fortunate that, you know, like publishers are like pretty cool about it because obviously they are getting something out of it. It's not like they're just saints, but like it is very fortunate because, like you mentioned, Rooster Teeth is a giant company now, and if they were like, no, we're just gonna leave it to reviewers and you can watch that, then yeah, these things wouldn't exist, and a lot of creators wouldn't get the opportunity that they get. You know, becoming a creator is an extremely like 1 in a million thing, and you know, it's very nice that you know there's one less thing to worry about when it comes to making gameplay videos. You know.
I mean, we have seen it in the past. We've seen probably around 2013, 14, I think, when Nintendo just decided, no, you're not allowed to upload gameplay.
That's actually what prompted the conversation, was that Nintendo had initially done it for the first time and they created their like Nintendo Creator Program, or whatever the fuck it was, where you had to join their program in order to make videos. And it was the first time people were like, oh yeah, I guess this isn't technically very legal, is it? They can kind of like most companies are cool, but this is a legal, maybe not even a gray area, but yeah. And it prompted that conversation. A lot of game companies did then come out and be like, nah, you can do whatever the fuck you want, play our games. Have they even stopped that yet?
I think they've stopped that, but people still have like a PTSD type thing to uploading Nintendo content.
Fair. That's fair. Do you know what? I actually fear the day, and I hope I don't jinx it by saying this, but I fear the day that Nintendo decides to add their entire music library to YouTube's Content ID recognition system.
Oh no, they can't do that.
Because the sheer volume of YouTubers that use Nintendo music it's not even exclusive to gaming YouTubers. Random YouTubers will be using the Wii Shop channel theme. Or the freaking the Me channel theme.
It's because they hire the best music creators in the business.
Exactly, right? And so if Nintendo ever decides to do that, a lot of YouTubers are gonna get messed up.
But that brings up actually a really good point, which on top of being able to play the game OSTs are usually pretty fine as well. Like you can just use game OSTs and you usually won't get assassinated for it. Obviously, like I'm not just saying like these guys are great and they're benefiting out of it, but it is a nice situation to be a part of for sure. But you know what's not very sick? Going into another lockdown. You guys ready? You guys excited?
I can't be the only one. To me, this doesn't feel like we're going back into another lockdown. I've been in lockdown since March. Lockdown never ended for me.
For me, that's because I've been unemployed, so lockdown has just never ended for me too.
You see, as a self-employed freelancer who works in video, I noticed the difference because between March and June, I had no work. And then August, I started leaving the house because people were paying me again. So no, I will notice. I will definitely notice.
You know what? I feel like this is interesting because we kind of have something to compare it to. We can compare it to what it was like back in, March, April area. So I'm curious, Simba, like when lockdown hit the first time, what was like the most devastating aspect of it? that you kind of didn't see coming?
For me, I guess it was more of a mental thing, and maybe this was the case for a lot more people.
Yeah.
Just like I wasn't ready for what like being at home, being alone more, and like being very limited on what I can do leaving out the house, like how that would affect me, and it forced a lot of change internally. And Christ, a lot of the mental places I've been this year have probably been because of that time that I got, because it's just like time, you know. Like when I'm not sitting there editing content for clients, it's just I wake up and I've got 16 hours of like waking time to just figure out what to do with it, and you know you get to thinking a lot. You get to a lot of thinking. What about you? Well, what was the unintended, if there were any?
Yeah, the like the mental thing is definitely part of it, because it's like you don't really realize. I was saying this to somebody the other day. Like you think you're a lot more introverted than you are until you're forced to never go outside. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I kind of like going outside sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
for once, like I like people for sure.
Yeah, that's like one part of it. But the other part is just, I think it's not really so much the actual aspect of staying inside. It's just the general mood of what you see people talking about on the news, what you see people talking about when you're actually like just, talking to someone over the phone or whatever, what you see on Twitter, what you see on Instagram. There is this negative thing that's just around.
Yeah.
And so overall, I think the mood overall for people is just kind of more depressed, That I don't know, maybe is that it can't just be how I'm seeing things. I think that's generally just kind of how it is right now.
No, it is. It definitely is.
It is.
I think now it's it might actually be more so that now, because I guess initially people didn't really know what a lockdown meant and what that felt like, and now we all very fresh in our minds remember what those 4 months were like, and we know we're going back to that. What about you two? Any unintended consequences of the lockdown situation?
I literally got kicked out of my uni accommodation. That's what happened. Yeah, because I was at uni at the time, and obviously during my final semester at uni, like the building in which I usually do, lectures were closed. It was only online only. However, because I still had assignments to do, a final project and stuff, I still need to get those completed. And some of those involve studio work. I was like, hey, I need to get this one vocal take, literally one vocal recorded, and I had booked a studio session. Then they counted it because of lockdown. And then, I was like, okay, well, hey, as long as I'm staying in accommodation, right? Finally stock up on food shopping, and then boom. Oh, by the way, hey, everyone has to leave by Friday. They told us this on Thursday. Yeah, everyone has to leave.
Oh my god.
By Friday.
It's really like good that you actually had somewhere to go at least, because like imagine, I don't know, an international student or something.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, where do you go?
Yeah, man, you gotta just start booking the first flight out, right? I also just remembered there actually was one unintended consequence of lockdown. Literally a couple weeks before lockdown happened, I started seeing someone that fell apart real fast because of distance issues, and I also moved further away from where I was already, so it was not lit. So that was an unintended consequence, I guess.
Right. Was it like a mutual thing where you were both like, listen, I don't think we can do this?
It just kind of felt, well, like, so initially it was like a couple dates and it was going really well. And then lockdown kind of happened. They actually got busier because they worked in retail. So like, because like online orders and stuff, they got like super duper busy. And then like just text communications were like up and down. And then eventually it just kind of just fizzled. So yeah, not sick.
Very not lit. I have actually, I know of one other case of that happening as well.
Yeah.
So, 'tis not cuffing season.
No, it ain't.
Let's just
the
say.
worst cuffing season of all.
It is really not. What about
probably
you,
like
Reese?
one of the few people that had unintentional benefits from lockdown 1.
All right, let's hear 'em.
Well, lockdown 1, I think like the week that it started, the first week, I had a bunch of lectures that like were mandatory to meet in person. I was like, I just kind of can't be bothered. I'm kind of done at this point. Then they announced lockdown, and I didn't have to basically go, other side of London to go to them. Then I had my half term to revise for exams, which I guess knowing you can have a textbook open next to you and internet really sort of like mentally prevents you from revising. So I basically didn't that entire half term. and then got to my exams and passed only pretty much because I could just Google everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, like, I had planned to do so many things that summer, like a bunch of like projects, and even though I should have had the time, since I was at home all day, it is, as you were saying, Sammy, of just that just general just downer on vibe, for the entire year.
Yeah, this year I think it was April that I officially just stopped using Twitter, and I haven't used it since. I usually don't fuck with it and like the general vibe of the internet, but this year I was like, nah, I'm really okay. I'm really good.
I'm curious though, with you guys going into lockdown too, right? Is it like New Year's resolutions? In this lockdown, are you gonna work on your health, fitness, and learn a new skill?
Well, I'll go first. I mean, there's this answer could probably apply to all of us, but there's not enough. There's not going to be enough of a change in my personal circumstances and day-to-day life to warrant an overhaul or boost for improvement in any particular area. If you're just saying, I mean, would you like to improve in something? I could come up with something, but as a result of lockdown, it's like, it's annoying that, I can't go out, but it was already kind of like that. I already wasn't just going out willy-nilly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't really say anything to that.
So pretty much since the initial lockdown, it's just been in almost like a limbo state of lockdown the entire time. Like, lockdown never really ended.
At least for me, nothing changes at all, especially because A, I'm unemployed, B, my cousin and my little brother are both still going to school, and C, my parents and my aunt both work in jobs which kind of require them to be at work still. So nothing really changes.
You know what? That brings up an interesting topic when you mention, how like your brother and your cousin are still going to school. They've kept the schools open this time, and something I'm very curious about is, how is this affecting school students? I'm very I feel for students going to school in these times because it's so uncertain, especially if you're in year 11 or you're in year 13 right now, because honestly, you can't really know for 100% sure that you are going to be sitting exams at the end of the academic year.
Yeah, you have to find that motivation to still be doing all the studying and learning all the content to potentially just have a flip of a coin if you get a predicted or not.
Yeah, it's difficult. I've kind of been I've kind of been ending every podcast kind of with that message, just because it's I imagine it's so difficult maneuvering the whole situation. Like at my sibling's school, and like if somebody gets COVID, it like fucks up the whole situation.
Oh yeah.
So in my sibling's school, in my sister's year, so my sister's in year 9, and in year 9 and year 7, a person in each of those years got COVID, so they were just off school for 2 weeks. Luckily, it was literally like 2-3 days before half term, so it didn't fuck things up too much. My brother wasn't too happy about it because my sister was staying home while he was going to school every day. But
That I don't get.
But yeah, so like they just basically just if someone gets COVID, they will just like come back and they just shut down the school.
That happened to my cousin. Like my cousin was like coughing a lot, and so he was just sent home immediately.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't get about that. You're saying like they shut down years like 9 and 7 because somebody in them years had COVID.
Yeah.
Do they think that like a year 7 and a year 11 student can't walk past each other in a hallway when everybody is a giant cluster between classes and things like that?
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit because obviously my sister works in a school and she told us kind of how it's structured. So each part of the school, like the buildings, have specific year groups. There's the year 7 part, there's the year 8 part, and they do everything in that part. You at break time, you're in that part of the school. Lunchtime, you eat in that part of the school. So that's kind of how they do it. So what happens is the teachers move around, not the students, and that's kind of how they keep people separated in a sense.
Okay.
Oh, and they have leaving times. So like usually people go home at 3. Now there are people who go home at 2:30 and then 2:45 and then
like
3 and
staggering,
then 3:15, like that.
Yeah.
You will be leaving early now.
Legit. And that's another disruption, a whole half an hour off of school.
Yeah.
It's like people have to arrive at school at clustered times as well. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it is very tough. the whole school thing. Just wrapping back a second. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. For you guys, yeah, we're kind of similar schedules. So yeah, I guess lockdown. You may want to make self improvement, but lockdown doesn't really affect how much that happens.
I would disagree on that. I have had the like negative effect of like the week before sort of lockdown like announced officially this time, and like a couple weeks last time when it was like still potentially not even gonna be a thing. I was like, hey, I'm gonna, I want to start working on my fitness. I want to start getting up the stairs and not be out of breath. I'm gonna start doing that. And you start hearing words like lockdown, stay home, and it just really just sort of adds to any sort of like resistance that your brain is giving to start something like that.
Very true. Like, I feel like now, having known what like lockdown actually kind of was, I feel like I'm kind of going into it kind of prepared, because I guess my situation is a bit different from you guys. If people aren't aware, I'm like a freelance cinematographer and editor, so I do have to leave the house every once in a while to go and film things. So I felt that, that has changed my schedule. And on top of that, editing work coming in. And if this lockdown is anything else like the last one, once I finish whatever I have right now, that'll be it for me until lockdown's over. And what that kind of means is that, yeah, the amount of time I have will change. I'm probably gonna try and get some extra things done with my free time this lockdown. And one thing I could totally do, like in December 10th, baby, I could play some Cyberpunk, maybe if it actually comes out then. But because at this point, who even really knows?
Yeah, I mean, oh my, okay, so Cyberpunk gets delayed again, and I am not surprised in the slightest.
It's a hat trick.
It's a hat trick, yeah. And, I made a video earlier this year all about release dates and crunch. And, Simba even helped me with that, like talking about how, part of it is affected by stock prices and how these companies don't want to let down their investors and things like that. And in that video, I was even saying, like, we can't really be certain, even when a game has been delayed once, that it won't happen again, because they're just hoping it'll be done by then. They don't know when it'll be done.
It seems to be the PS4 and Xbox One that have delayed it. So apparently the game is practically ready for PC and Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. But apparently it's not properly, like, they haven't been able to fully optimize it for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Although I believe they said both of the vendors, Microsoft and Sony, are like, yeah, you can put the game up if you really want. But they're like, no, it's not like properly ready. So they need to spend extra time optimizing it. So I think they're just unifying the release dates. This time, a little bit less on them, a little bit less.
I hope the developers are okay.
Yeah, they must be crunching hard at this point now.
It's got to be hard on the developers, just knowing that, oh, okay, we have to keep working on this thing.
Yeah.
that they've been working on forever. And one of the heads of the studio wrote in a message to investors, they wrote, crunch is not that bad. And then it got leaked out to the studio, and like people working on it were like, what the hell? How's this guy gonna say crunch isn't that bad? And he had to apologize to them.
I read a separate thing where he was talking about the specifics of crunch, where I think he said not everyone's on crunch, but then kind of when I read the list of people, I was like, that kind of sounds like everyone. And he said like QA testers, programmers, and designers. Like, who then isn't?
They let the janitor keep his usual hours.
The janitor's like, yo, bro, you can go home. It's 3 a.m. Don't stay here, man. It's all good. The person who brings the donuts in is like, oh, you know what? They give me a good work-life balance.
Yeah. And we let the interns go home. Like, yeah. But the thing is with crunch, I know we don't like it, and I think the degrees to some companies take it is a bit ridiculous, but I think it's an unavoidable thing. That's just kind of how projects with deadlines tend to work, because something might go wrong towards the end, something may come up. It's just how it is. The reason why crunch tends to happen is obviously because it's generally like an expectations thing. You start out the project and you're like, here's all these things we want to achieve, and then you also have investors to battle with, and then they're like, okay, could you also do these things because we need to sell this game, and they're trying to balance that out. And then oftentimes as well with publishers, what will happen is they'll be like, you need to put these features in, and they'll be like, well, we can't do that, and they're like, no, you're going to put the features in, and then and then it comes down to like a few months before, and like, we can't fit the features in. It's like, oh, nah, you can fit it in, and then they delay things and all that stuff. And but I think generally some form of crunch kind of unavoidable.
I think that crunch can be avoided if you are incredibly realistic with expectations, I don't think you can be super ambitious and avoid crunch.
No.
I think if you're like, okay, we're going to make this game, it's going to do these things that we know for a fact we can do,
Yeah.
you can avoid crunch. Then the question is like, okay, but I want good games.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
don't want developers to be suffering to make these games. And so like, what do? I suggested something in my video on like release dates. I was like, but maybe just be not putting pressure on a release date.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how a AAA studio can do this,
I
but
don't
just be
think
like,
they
we're
can.
making this game, and when it's done, we'll let you know about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's viable for like big AAA releases because you got to market those things. You know,
Exactly.
games like Destiny, GTA, those games cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And that means there's got to be investors involved. You got to market the shit out of them. So the minute you can, you have to start building the hype. And actually, in a very weird way, the longer it takes, the more hype actually kind of ends up being built up, funnily enough.
To an extent. It may just be because of this year being lockdown and people, don't have like going out or anything to look forward to. But Cyberpunk has had the opposite effect, I feel. It's no longer building hype. People just give it to me already.
But that is hype, right? Like people if the people want it. Like I think people when they get it,
maybe
they're
not
gonna
like
be
excited hype, but like aggressive hype then.
Yeah, but hype is hype, man. Hype is hype.
It's different.
It's still hype though.
Honestly, I think the one thing that was suggested that I've heard, like I've always heard of people trying to say, oh, they should unionize, basically.
I feel like the thing is with say like game developers, so many people want to go and develop games thinking they could just play games for a living and whatnot. So if they start causing trouble and they just got rid of them, it probably wouldn't be that too difficult to then just hire a new team.
This is what I've kind of always said about both those fields that you mentioned, game design and like animation.
Mhm.
It's a really messed up things to say, but an animator and a game developer are replaceable because they'll kick them out and then they'll just open the door and
Yep.
be like, hey, do you need a job?
Oh yeah, I also just remembered something else. A lot of like companies try and like discourage their members from unionizing as well.
Every industry would.
Of
Every
course they
industry
do.
does. Every industry.
Yeah.
does. No,
Yeah.
no industry wants a union. And you know what it is? You know what it is? It's like this is kind of the problem with these industries because I was having a talk with with another director of photography that I know, and he was like talking about how he was going to like he's part of this union, but it basically means nothing because of how it actually works in a tangible sense. And they were talking about all these things that like a company, like a client or a company you shouldn't do because it's against these regulations and stuff. And then everyone just was like in the meeting is like, yeah, but if we don't do this, we're not going to get any work. It's like we can't just not do all these things because they'll just hire someone else. Because there's definitely at least 10 other people who they interviewed who were almost about to get the job, and they'll just call them up and ask them, do you want that job we'd offered you before? That's what will happen, and you'll just be gone. It's an unfortunate reality, kids, but yeah, you gotta see what the caveats of whatever industry you're going into because they all have them, and you just have to see if you're prepared for whatever yours is. Just know what you're getting into is all I say because they all kind of suck. But do you know what industry doesn't suck? Streaming. And we're getting right into that, baby. We're affiliate on Twitch now. We're fucking cool, isn't that right, guys?
Hey.
Yeah, baby.
Hey.
Yeah, so when you finish your day at work at a job that you hate that's underpaying you and overworking, you can come to twitch.tv/Unverified and watch the boys play some video games. And you can spend some of that hard-earned money on us. Yeah, how does that sound?
Send through them bits, baby.
Yeah, baby. Why don't you get over there right now?
No, but for real, give us them Twitch Prime subs.
Yes, get them Twitch Primes in, bro. Bro, Pokimane, she's put a cap on her donations. Nah, man, it's like be as generous as you want to be, bro. Take some of that Pokimane.
You like.
You will spend $100 on Pokimane every month. You're gonna spend $5 now. Spend the other 95 on us.
Exactly.
Don't be spending £500 on some VTuber. Spend it on us. Us 3D,
exactly.
real people.
We're real people with real feet. It's sick.
Help them out.
Hey.
Alright, so but that's all on you. I ain't participating.
Hey, I never said I'd do anything. I'm just letting them know I have them.
Like that.
For real though, I'm actually very impressed with you guys. I'm very proud that managed to reach affiliate status on the Twitch channel. The consistency has been very impressive, and it's nice. I tune in to streams, and I'm like, yo,
join
like,
us.
I yes,
Not that
but
proud to join us.
Continue,
I do get it. Does like warm my heart when I see it. I'm like, oh, the guy's alive. Yes, they're keeping it up. I'm very proud for real. I think it's very cool. Well done, guys.
Thank you. But yeah, it's all about the people watching. So come and watch us. All jokes aside, we do all of this because to some degree we at least enjoy it. So, and I say to some degree we enjoy it quite a bit. We like making these podcasts. We like streaming every time, and we're very lucky that there are some people out there. Even though for some it may not look like a lot, but it is a lot to us that there's all these people out there who have an interest in our content and just want to hear us fucking ramble. Like fucking 400 people want to hear us talk about fucking Spider-Man and iPhone chargers. What? Why? I don't know.
It's
but
baffling.
It's confusing. Like fucking nearly 4,000 people want to watch us look at Reddit. Look at Reddit.
They can do it themselves. Without idiots.
So no, we appreciate it. So thank all of you again, and we'll be here. We'll be here through all of it. Through the apocalypse, if zombies appear, we'll be doing this podcast every 2 weeks. They can't stop us.
Already made plans for it in a previous episode. Go check that one out too.
Yo, Reese with that fucking look at us, we're marketing geniuses. Oh shit! But yeah, if you do want to hear and see more of us, go head over to youtube.com/unverified. There's like 30 something videos on there. Do you know how much video that is? Christ, please just be healthy about it. Like, Christ, I don't want to be the reason you fail your not exams or whatever's happening. So these fucking mock exams might be all you have. So don't fail them watching us. And if you wanna keep up with us, you can head over to twitter.com/unvershow. And because Twitter is a cesspool, bookmark our site, bookmark our page, and just block the rest of Twitter because Twitter sucks, but we're cool. So you should do that. I fix social media every episode. I'm such a genius. I don't know how I do it. God. Anyway, Simi, do you have something to say for the people? We wrap up.
Stay safe out there. You know what? Well done us for making it to November. And we shall continue. We got this, guys.
We're all in this together. Reese, you got some wise words of wisdom?
Will we make it to December?
Yikes.
Who knows?
Israel?
We shall see.
Right,
you got anything encouraging for the people?
Will Google's icons not suck? Will we survive lockdown too? Will Alex Hutchinson get fired from Google? Will Cyberpunk be delayed for a 4th time? And
Probably not.
will Unverified become the top streamers in Twitch? Find out next time
Already is.
on Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, sure. It's almost perfect.
The Z stands for Unverified.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to question that. I just, Simi's smarter than me. He's probably right.
My favorite podcast is Unverified.
Unverified, dude. Come on, get it together. Stupid guy. Yeah, my closing statement is: don't worry, boys. Boris said we're gonna fix COVID by spring, so it's gonna be okay.
I don't think he said 2020. He didn't say 2021 or 22. I'm gonna bit optimistic, but I'm gonna put my bet for 2034.
For reals. Yeah, fucking 2022 we'll have a big party, guys. We'll be sick.
On Zoom.
Until then, on fucking Zoom. Until then, we have been you four beautiful, or just regularly, or not even that attractive boys. It's all subjective, you know how it is. But we've been them, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this fucking podcast and that outro. Oh, I always get so much energy in the outros. I don't know why. And then
what is it for the rest of it?
Because you're happy it's over.
Whoa, Simi, don't what?
Wild.
What? Yeah, he didn't say anything. See you guys later. Stay in school.
Bye.
And,
Bye.
stay hydrated and game on.
Game off.